like the ship to go. Now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Dream, where we both aspire to be great writers in this Inception-like void thing. I don't know. It just keeps getting deeper and deeper. I'm even more confused after the conclusion of this book. How you doing, John?
I'm good, man. Just trying to do my best to be a dreamer in this dream.
But yeah, man, we're back to talk about the autobiography of Benjamin Sisko. And this was where we kind of wrap it up, man. It's been like, what, a year's long journey.
My bad. I'm sorry.
No, hey,
it's all me.
It's just finding the time to meet up and get, read and talk about these. So, I know we're two very busy guys. So, man, it's not totally your fault for sure. So, yeah, man, but let's get into it. We're wrapping up the story of Benjamin Sisko. Any parts of these last 4 chapters we want to dive into? I'm going to leave it open to you. What would you like to talk about first?
That's hard to say, man. It's there's not one particular part or particular chapter of these few that we finished on that sticks out more than the other, right? As with anything DS9, you can have an entire 6-hour conversation on a specific episode, right? Because I think just the writers in DS9 just layered the story on just thick. Not bad. It was great. It was great, but it wasn't one of those things you can just watch mindlessly, right? Like there was more to it. So I don't know. I think my favorite episodes were the war episode, especially coming up to the end, retaking DS9. So I'm glad he kind of covered those and kind of gave Jake a overview of his thoughts during those times. Because, a lot of those times we didn't see Jake, right? Yeah. Jake was doing his own thing. He was writing. He had his own story going on. So it's good to know that he could experience, at least understand what his father was like in a wartime situation. So that's kind of what I got from these chapters. He's like, hey, I've told you about history. I've told you about how I grew up. I told you about my beliefs and my values. I've told you how I responded to certain things. But hey, you need to know how I respond in stress. And that's what I took from these.
Yeah, the war chapter is very interesting in a sense. I think I first saw it when I got the book and I thumbed through it last year sometime. I said, oh, there's a blacked out part, a redacted part in this book.
Yeah, I did see that.
I was so anxious to finally get to it. And lo and behold, when we do, we have Benjamin talking about the war, talking about making hard decisions, talking about some things that he had to do that maybe he's not so proud of. And, as we get this through the writings of Jake Sisko, he makes a footnote that says there's some things that are better left between father and son. Wow. And we know the troubled decisions that Benjamin had to make. They talk about the pale moonlight. They make reference to it directly in this chapter. So I thought that was very interesting that he kind of had to explain parts of that to Jake.
I lied. I cheated. I bribed men to cover the crimes of other men.
I did like the part, again, we're probably jumping around, the explanation on his feelings when he had to have Cassidy arrested. We never really delved into those emotions. Like, you found this woman, you fell for this woman is a traitor, she's going to jail. Like, you're going to wait for her. How does that make you feel? Like, and you put yourself in that position. And I'm sure that would have been something if my father went through it. I'd be wondering, Dad, why did you wait? What made you wait? What made you go through with it? So I'm glad to see that explanation come out. As far as the redacted version, it was good. I'm disappointed.
Why you wanted more?
Well, like you, I thumbed through early and I saw it. I was like, man, this is going to be good. Kind of disappointed that it was just words from Dad, but all of Dad's words, we want to hear those.
Yeah.
So I would love to. And I wonder, did Mr. Attico have something in mind there, or was it just, plot device?
I like the pageantry of it. Even though, they probably could have, I mean, we saw the episode. I mean, he probably could have told us exactly what the message was to Jake. But I like that it was like kind of, this little end thing where we're going to redact this little part. I don't know. I found that interesting.
It is. I'm probably overly curious. I like to I want to take a look under the hood, see how it works type guy. So,
yeah. Getting back to Cassidy, when we were talking last time about the portrayals that Benjamin faced, this is one that totally went over my head. I didn't even think about. And that kind of leads me to a greater discussion on the sympathetic nature of the Maquis. Now we know why they were doing what they were doing. They were trying to take up arms on their own and defend their colonies. But it's kind of interesting, the through line that we have with them, even through Voyager, where these guys weren't really bad guys. They were just trying to protect what was theirs. And then going back to his buddy Cal Hudson. And it's kind of interesting that Cassidy has to go through this, even though she felt like she was doing what was right. And, that's the case with a lot of the Maquis sympathizers that we see throughout the Trek.
Yeah, it's the Maquis has always been that villain that you love to like. I don't know how to best to describe it, right? Mm-hmm. I get it, right? And we see it so much in society now, in the world now. There's two sides to every story, right?
Yes.
In certain people's eyes, it may look like a terrible thing that you're doing, but put yourself in their shoes and understand why they're doing it, and then you kind of understand, well, I can kind of see how it became this, right? And one thing leads to another and it escalates. So it wasn't shocking to me that Cassidy would be helping them just because of who she is. Yep. She has that sympathetic, helpful heart. And I feel like she saw a struggle and she wanted to be part of it.
Yeah, just I think ultimately speaking of he speaks of Cassidy and how they instantly kind of just hit it off as friends and, enjoying each other's company, and how that, how it became a love interest, and how Jake introduced her to him, which we all know. So
a freighter captain.
Yeah, he said he wasn't even looking, I just found all of that fascinating. And I find myself wanting more of, I mean, we got to see a fair amount of it in Deep Space Nine, but I feel like I would have liked to have seen more of that. Because I do think we saw the Benjamin-Jake relationship fleshed out pretty well in Deep Space Nine. But I would like to see more of the Cassidy relationship, especially now that we're knowing that, I guess we knew at the end of Deep Space Nine, but we know that there's a child now, and Jake is a brother, Benjamin is a father once again, which he never expected to be. So I found all that interesting, and, I wish there wasn't room to explore that a bit more.
Now that you say that has been something that crossed my mind watching DS9. I would love to see, what we never got to see a lot of was the beauty of Bajor. We always talked about it, right? And we'd see spots here and there. Mm-hmm. But, that one episode where Benjamin had built the model home that he was going to put in the Cantha province or whatever. Like, I would love to see the continuation of their relationship in their home on Bajor. And maybe he's now taking more of a responsibility as emissary instead of Starfleet. Maybe he's retired from Starfleet. He's on Bajor. He's taking up the full role of emissary of the prophets, and he's there rebuilding Bajor. That would be a cool spinoff.
Yeah, I mean, and ultimately, like when you get toward the end of the book, he makes the statement that he will be back.
And he even said that at the end on the show, I think, on the end. I think he said he'll be back. Yeah. But he never came back. Avery Brooks. I'm just saying, sir.
It just makes me so curious to know that near the end of the book we talk about, of course, we keep bringing up the nonlinear existence, time. I think they could even bring Benjamin back in the current timeline with a totally different actor. I wouldn't want that, but I'm just thinking this nonlinear existence, What is he now as he's in the wormhole? What is he? Just a cloud of gas? What I mean, what is he, a non-corporeal being? Like, what is he now?
The best way to do, I can't get on board with bringing him back on the screen as a different actor. I can't be on board with that. What I 150% would be aboard with if Mr. Attico would write the continuation of Sisko through this.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And the title would be The Sisko of the Prophets.
Okay, we have a pitch right here.
Just say it.
I mean, even if how old is Avery Brooks? I don't know. He has to be 80 or 80 something years old.
But I mean, that would fit kind of in the timeline, right?
Yeah.
But no, he's been with the prophets and time doesn't exist. So technically when he comes back, he'll be the same age he was when he left.
Well, you could throw in a explanation in there to kind of make it work.
Yeah. He's 76 years old.
Oh, well, that's not, hey, he could do it. Patrick Stewart was in his 80s near the end of his run. But, I just think you could bring him back. You can have Sirach Lofton come back. Having recently seen him at a con, I think he could jump right back in and be Jake. So I think would be really cool. Another thing I wanted to point out is Benjamin's appreciation of Worf as he kind of lays out in these last few chapters.
Yes.
I liked how he went into his relationship with Jadzia, and how they both had to kind of cope with Jadzia's death, and how she even softened him.
She did.
When you really think about it, Worf was so instrumental to a lot of things that happened on Deep Space Nine. The relationship with the Klingons, how it kind of soured, came back. He was instrumental in that. And as far as he makes a comparison to Worf going from the security operations to command, sort of like he did with engineering to command. So I thought that was really cool as well. So yeah, you kind of forget sometimes that he wasn't there the whole time.
You do.
But man, he fit in so well into the crew.
And Sisko brought him in to be a bridge between the Federation and the Klingons during the war. But he also served as a bridge for the viewers to the Klingons. I kind of feel like maybe he softened the Klingons a bit for the viewer. We got a better understanding of their brutality. I'll say it like that.
Yeah.
A lot of things we saw him do without Worf's explanation to Sisko and the others about Klingon culture. We would have just taken it as they were taking it, as like a brutal, mindless, war-hungry race. Yeah. But he kind of brought a vision like, hey, it's similar to us. They just a little different, a little rough around the edges, So I did like that. I do love that we pointed out, I never really thought about it until I read it, the similarities between Benjamin and Worf coming to DS9. And they never really mentioned it on the show. Yeah.
And he definitely brought a lot of clarity to the Klingons. Even, you talk about a bridge to the Klingons. He was also, even though Miles did a great job of this, but he was also a kind of onboarding for the people who had just finished TNG that may have not have been all the way on board with Deep Space Nine. Now, not only do you have the transporter chief, now you have Worf coming on board. So it was another way to get that TNG audience over to DS9. So
very much.
Worf is very much valued.
And the growth with Worf and O'Brien coming from TNG they were great characters. Well, O'Brien had very minor roles. On TNG, Worf just was like, I called him the trigger guy.
Alexander.
Like every situation, Worf's like, let's kill him. Let's shoot him. But we got to get the human side of him a lot in it. Yeah. So
I agree. Now, this character that was brought up when talking about Benjamin's love interest, I did not even remember, and you're going to have to help me out, Finna.
Oh,
That is a total blank in my memory.
really?
I do not remember that character at all.
So you remember the episode where they had this famous terraformer coming to the station? He was going to reignite a dead sun. And he had this wife, and I forgot his wife's name, but she looks like maybe Indian descent. Very good looking, very, very good looking. But she was whatever race she was, when they marry or mate, they mate for life. And he was so tied up in his work, as terraformers are, extremely prideful in his work, very I don't know, he bragged a lot, and I forget what you call it.
Cocky.
But, yeah, cocky. Well, yeah. And he knew she was unhappy, but she would never leave him, right? She developed this, I guess, I don't know if it was a ability or a mental disorder, but she would pass out and her consciousness would split into another physical being that was identical to her, named Finna. So,
okay, I gotta go back and find this episode.
So Sisko was walking around the upper pylons, and he saw this Finna girl standing there looking out of the window, and they got to talking. And she said all of the right things. He absolutely loved it. And they were having a great conversation. You could tell he was falling right then. And he turned and looked out the window while he was talking. He turned back around and she was gone. And he didn't know why. Then that terraformer invited him to dinner for the first time. And he sees his wife and he's like, "It's you." So you remember after dinner, he grabbed her. He's like, "What are you doing?" And they don't remember. Anyway, you have to watch it.
Yeah, this is a gap for me, man.
But, I was going to say, when we got to this part, I like how he used Finna and Cassidy to kind of, I took it this way. I don't know if this is how it was meant, but he was showing Jake the difference between, let's say, infatuation and love, right? Like Finna was his infatuation, and he thought it was love at the time, but it turns out not to be real. But what he found with Cassidy, which was nothing like Finna, but turned into something deeper. And that's what I love about that message in these chapters, was that he's like, look at the difference here. This is kind of what you look for.
Yeah, he finna do something he should be.
He would have if he could have found her. She just kept, every time the girl would wake up, the Finna would disappear.
Could he touch her when she? Oh,
They
wow.
kissed.
That's deep, yo.
They kissed. And she never would tell him anything other than his name. Like, she'd pop up just randomly. He'd turn around and she was standing beside him. And she's acting like nothing ever happened. And then he would turn his head and she would disappear. He was like, I'm losing my mind.
Okay, I know what I'm rewatching tonight.
I don't remember the name of the episode. It's really good, though.
Yeah, and he talks about how that experience let him know that he had capacity to love again. But yeah, so many great things in here. I really liked how we talk about the Defiant. The Defiant was destroyed, and then we have the new Defiant. And he talks of, well, it goes into him being in the ready room and pulling out that book, the book that his mom gave him or left for him when she died, the Maya Angelou book of poems. Yeah, I thought that was really cool. And we get the call back to Do Big Things Ben in here as well. Good. So I thought that was a really, really nice bookend too.
Do you remember ever seeing that book in the show?
I don't. I don't.
When I look back, I guarantee you it was probably laying on a table or something, on one of the episodes, and we just didn't catch it. That would be so cool if that was the case.
Yeah, that would be pretty awesome. Let's get into the conclusion. As we have said from the outset, a story told by Benjamin, written by Jake, written by Derek Attico, written by Baby? What? So what the it's Inception once again.
Timey-wimey. I don't know what to say. I don't know.
Is it legitimizing or is it just taking the dream and the dreamer? Is it taking it one step further by kind of placing this book as yet another story written by Benny? I'm trying to frame my head, like, because even at the end of Far Beyond the Stars, we're left with the dreamer comment, kind of the ambiguity, of what is real and what is fake, although it's all fiction,
Right.
But it's given us that level of pause to kind of think about the origin of the story and where it lies between Ben Sisko and Benny Russell. And lo and behold, at the end of this book, we don't escape it, because we see that Benny Russell is talking about this book. You thought this was written by Jake. Well, let me just, I'm sure you were expecting this closing to be written by Jake Sisko. And then it goes on with words from Benny Russell, which I thought was pretty good. What did you think of that? Did that throw you for a loop, or?
Well, I'll tell you the first thing that threw me for a loop. I was reading that and I was like, oh man, Mr. Attico is getting ready to give us a unexpected conclusion. And then he said, as my hands paused over the typewriter, and I was like, oh, wow, he's still writing books on typewriters? That's awesome. But something didn't, I like, okay, maybe he's old school. And then I kept reading it. I love how you just explained it, though. It's the keyword, makes you pause, right? Because we've gone through this entire book with trying to keep up with who's talking to who's writing what. And, you kind of have to separate yourself, or separate the story from yourself, because you get to a point where you think, I'm reading this and I'm listening to Benjamin Sisko.
Yeah.
Like, Sisko wrote this. And every now and then we realize it's Jake writing about his dad. Yeah. But in the midst of that, I don't think your brain can comprehend that many levels. And if you get to the end and you kind of, I think it's great that he kind of, like you said, gave you a pause and made you pull back and say, okay, this was all a story, right? Yeah. It was all a story. But it was an important story with a significance. Let's not get tied up into the Sisko said, Jake said, he's alive, he's here that time, this time. Let's look at the entirety of it. So that mind twister for real.
Yeah. And we get the date, January the 3rd, 1993. I wonder, is that the original air date for Deep Space Nine?
Oh,
I know it was 93 to 98. But I didn't take the time to research to look it up.
I'll do it right now.
And they said a 50-year gap between, I guess, the events of Far Beyond the Stars to, we learned that he did get his books published.
What was the date on that?
January 3rd, 1993.
Deep Space Nine aired in syndication from January 3rd, 1993.
Go ahead, Mr. Attico. Go ahead, Mr. Attico. I see you, bro. I see you.
That is awesome.
That's kick ass, man.
That is awesome.
That is kick ass, dude.
I love that. Man, can you imagine the mental gymnastics you have to do to put a book together like this?
Yeah, it's crazy.
I imagine he had to just disappear for a long time to write this and put it together. And then could you imagine the vacation he had to take when he was done?
Yes, it's so cool.
That's awesome.
And I like how in the Benny Russell conclusion, he writes here, Deep Space Nine isn't just science fiction. It is a challenge to expand our ways of thinking and reach toward a future that includes everyone through infinite diversity and infinite combinations. So just a good wrap up about working together, and he ends it off, thank you for believing the dreamer and the dream. Just chef's kiss to end the book. And
then again, like you said, even that statement kind of shows again what you were saying. It step back from, this was great. It was a great book. You enjoyed it. It finished. It gave you some story, but let's step back and see what the real meaning of all this was. And that last statement, that was overall what the book was meant to relay.
Yeah, the dream of being in Starfleet. Let's see where it took
I
took Benjamin.
love that dream and dreamer statement, but hold on. There's one more thing I read in here that I screenshotted it and shotted it, however you say it.
Pow, pow.
Oh God.
Hands up, mother.
Okay, so when he was telling Jake, he said, "Nothing is permanent, Jake. The universe's only true constant is change, whether in the form of incredible rewards or unimaginable disappointments. Change will always happen. Who we are and how we choose to react in the face of change is what will last, what will endure, and what will be remembered of us, and what we'll remember about ourselves." I love that.
So touching, man.
I love that.
And right before that, I like how it outlines the importance of family, because he makes a statement: "My true role was always to be your emissary, Jake, and now the emissary of both of my children." Man.
And I mean, that's good. I mean, he is Jake's emissary to life, you know? He's Jake's emissary to life.
Wow. With that said, let's we're not going to give a rating, but I would like to just get your overall thoughts on the book, and I could go first if you want me to, but just overall thoughts on what you think. And I don't know how many Star Trek books you've actually read. For me, I've read a few, listened to a few, probably several audiobooks as well. But this is the first one of this type that I've read. I haven't read any of the other autobiography books that are out there. Well, first let me ask you, does it make you want to go back and maybe pick up the autobiography of Spock, Kirk, or maybe Picard or any other captains?
Yes and no, and let me tell you why. If it's not written by Mr. Attico, I'll be scared to do so. But yes, this was, I love this. And it was more than just an autobiography, as we've clearly found out in this conclusion, which made it even better. So I have not read any other Star Trek books. It's a shame as a Trekkie to say that. One day I will. I would love to. But I've read plenty of books, and this is probably among one of my favorite books I've read.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I very much enjoyed it. I think the biggest thing for me was filling in all those gaps, getting the background of his upbringing, getting more about Benjamin's father and grandparents and his mom, and that whole relationship with being the emissary and how his life was kind of always moving in this path, as the prophet's being keep saying it, non-linear existence.
Hard to say path.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, it's I just really enjoyed it, man, and I'm really looking forward to more from Mr. Attico as well. So, yeah.
I also want to add, what I most love about this book was it was a lesson for Jake for life, but not only that. Again, if you step back from the fiction, this could be a lesson for all sons, whether they love Star Trek or not. Like, read this book. Yep. Just take away the lessons that Benjamin has given Jake. Like, those are lessons that we could implement today in life, today, right now, that I think a lot of men especially are missing. So, I mean, that alone was worth the read.
It's almost like if we were to get an audio version of this, that I would love Sirach to actually read it. I think that'll be amazing.
I was going to ask you that question. Who do you think should narrate it?
Oh, definitely Sirach, man.
Or even better, if Mr. Avery Brooks will narrate it.
Yeah, that could be good.
Because most of it is his words.
Yeah, no doubt, man.
But no, not a knock to you, Mr. Attico. You can narrate it, and I'll be perfectly happy with it.
Cool. All right, man. Well, that's it for this review. Hopefully we can, I'm trying to get the things in the works to actually get Mr. Attico on the show. So we'll see how that goes. Awesome. So maybe our next review will be Mr. Attico himself talking about this book and whatever he has next. So I can't wait for that, man.
Absolutely. Read this book, people. Read this book.
Well, thanks for being on this journey with us. We'll see if we, dive into something else, some other book. Who knows? But that's it for now, and hopefully next time we'll actually get that interview with Mr. Attico. So thanks for being with us through these several weeks. It's been a lot of fun, guys.
Absolutely. Live long and prosper.
You've been listening to the Discussing Network. Find out more at discussingnetwork.com.
Can I say that like shut up Wesley? I can just go shut up Clarence?